So hi, one of the Good Noise podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
And Zach from Modern Era.
and we're gonna ask him some questions today about the upcoming album "Victim of a Modern Age." So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Um, yeah, like we've not released music for quite a while, so coming back and releasing like singles off the album to kind of like start talking about it has been quite a liberating thing, and a lot of people there's quite a lot of anticipation because of like the different sounds that we've kind of put out from the record so far. Like
Mhm.
um the record's kind of this dual album concept in like a single album format. So there's two definite and distinctive sounds on it. So
Mhm.
um, I think there's been a lot of questions around, like, oh, this is on the same album as this song. So what is that? What like how? And then hopefully when it's released, people can get to understand how it flows like some sort of linear sequence rather than other albums that kind of seem like just 10 tracks, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So it's kind of nice to be able to show people like songs as like individual pieces, but also pieces to a bigger puzzle, if that makes sense.
It was
For sure.
definitely an interesting listen, like with the sonic changes and everything.
Thank
Kept
you.
my
How did you
attention.
Mhm.
find it? Like I haven't I've spoken to a few people about it, but you guys are some of my first. So how did you feel? Like,
Thought it was pretty good.
yeah,
I really enjoyed it actually. The
yeah,
first big change where it's like there was just like a lot of auto tune on somebody's voice. I thought it was like
sure,
really cool and it kind of
yeah.
shocked me for the first time because it was the first like big switch.
I love
Um
that.
but
I love
then
that.
when other songs kind of had that same vibe in it, I thought it all
Mm,
fit really well together because by the end it all connected. And
nice.
I thought it was really good. It was good.
So glad that it's like seen. It's like it's one of those things where I don't know, you're in the studio or you have an idea and you're like, I wonder how it's actually going to be articulated and are people actually going to receive it the same way you want it to be
Mhm.
received? So I'm glad you felt the shift. That's good.
For sure. It just
Good.
sounded like you guys had a lot of fun with it. If I'm being honest. Yeah.
100%, 100%. Like we started as a band with like this definite post-hardcore feel and stuff,
Mhm.
and me and my brother Kel just kind of sat down and we were just saying how like is this the thing we want to be forever? And me and him are very much in the idea of trying to make something not our own, but just trying to make a statement within music and kind of show that you can kind of do what you want and that. So um the album is essentially our progression into the next evolution of Bon Air and the next evolution of our musical journey, and kind of like let's just destroy the idea of a five-piece band and just use whatever we want and kind of make whatever music that is now and just see where that goes. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun trying to like kind of remove the guitar for like half the things. It was definitely we're like guitar dominated beforehand, so
Mhm.
removing all these like conventions that we had kind of stuck by for no reason and just kind of putting it into like, oh, let's just be expressive with everything and let it just happen. So I'm stoked how it turned out. I'm very excited for that, especially that second half of the record for
Mhm.
sure. For me, it was definitely the most liberating to write, just to be able to be free and kind of feel like there's no restrictions for myself. So
For
Oh
sure.
yeah.
God, I'm happy you guys are finally, just expressing yourself how you want to and just going all out.
100%. I feel like I don't know if I don't know if every band feels like it, but like at the start of their kind of journey, and it's kind of like easy to find yourself falling into these things that you think because you released two songs like that, you must stay like that or something like
Hmm.
along those lines, or you must fit into this thing because you're playing with these bands now. And I just think it's a thing in recent years that people just are starting to just become themselves again. I
Hmm.
felt like it was a definite like a dull period of music where everyone was kind of like,
Hmm.
well, these are the rules. Let's just use these things and let's just do another album like that. And it's just, and I feel like that's been said a million times, but I definitely believe it.
I
I
agree.
definitely
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are finally actually going outside of the box and, mixing
Mm,
and matching genres. And it's really
for
refreshing to
sure.
hear. Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
Awesome. So is there any meaning behind the album name or cover art?
The cover art is a little more difficult to describe, I guess, but the album name's kind of like, essentially the album was meant to be a take on the band name, which is just Modern Era, and it's kind of our intentions for writing music was to kind of just put our view of the state of the world back into the world. So victim of modern age is just the idea of falling victim to the world around you, and kind of yeah, that's essentially it. I think it's quite a self-explanatory name. Out of things that we usually do that are a bit more ambiguous, we wanted to put something that was a lot more just, if you read it, you know exactly what it's saying. And then the art is meant to kind of have this idea of natural and synthetic, and this kind of like gelling between textures and stuff. And that was essentially like where we based the idea, and then just kind of shot some stuff around that.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Perfect.
So can you tell us a little about your writing process for this album?
Orion process. I think we started out with essentially this concept of this person falling victim to a modern age, and then finding himself like being out of the world, reflecting on it. And that was kind of where we set the concept of things, and then tried to write around the emotional integrity around or the motivation of that kind of trajectory. So kind of writing the music as if it was like scenes of the films or something, and just trying to make it feel as atmospheric in those points in a story as possible. And kind of just went from that. Process wise with recording was we went through the idea of having a producer, and we spent a month in the studio with a producer, spent all our album budget with a producer, and then realized it was the bad thing to do. Scrapped absolutely every single track of it.
Oh,
and
wow.
started again with my brother Kel, who's the synth guitars and everything in the band. And we just redid everything, because I don't know, there's a time and place for a producer, and I think if you're trying to find your own voice and stuff, it's just, if the chemistry isn't there or something, it doesn't go the way you want it to. So yeah, we had this big learning curve of how Modern Era should write records in this period of being in the studio with a producer. There's nothing wrong with producer, just didn't work for us. So I guess it was just a big learning curve for us. To make things happen. So.
If you guys are looking, like, you wrote this record to kind of find your sound and everything, so it makes sense why, like, you wrote it with a producer, or you worked on it with a producer, and you're like, it doesn't make any sense, because you're trying to find your sound. So any outside sources,
exactly.
It makes no sense to have.
Yeah, it's like going into those rules of genre again. It's like you fall into this wave that you think an album should be made because you know that other bands, or you hear that bands go into a studio, write it, producer produces it, and then it comes out, and that's the finished product. But I think when you start taking it for project, that's when you realize that sometimes it doesn't actually have to happen like that. I know it's a silly thing to say, but you just fall into these like, I don't know, ways. And I'm just glad we had the guts to kind of just be like, nah, screw it, this isn't how we intended it, let's just do it again.
Yeah.
And obviously with lockdown and all the things that happen in the world, it kind of just gave us the ability to have that time to do it again. So kind of thankful for COVID for that. It was just timing. It was perfect to make it how we wanted it.
So is the plan to self-produce from now on, or is it going to be like a project?
I think definitely. Well, yeah, definitely project to project. But I think in our minds, it's just kind of like, well, that's not ruled out anymore. We now have a HQ, like a space that was an old studio control room. So we actually have a space to properly do it if we were to do it this way again. And I think with how the electronic side of things is going, I think you kind of write you kind of track it as you write anyway. So I think it kind of lends itself to the sonic layers more than we thought it did beforehand. So I think it's definitely on the cards to self-produce again.
All right,
for sure.
Cool.
And I feel better just recording with my brother. I know it's like, I don't know how other vocalists feel and stuff, but I much prefer like feeling like definitely know the person that's tracking me. It's definitely a much easier way to fall into how you're meant to feel recording, I think, and feel a bit more open to just try things and stuff. So
yeah, it's definitely valid. So I want you to tell us your favorite lyric off this album and the meaning behind it.
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh my god, that's fucking it's difficult.
There are a lot of lyrics.
It's just a lot of lyrics, and it's like the on the spot feeling of being like, wow, am I going to miss one that's like really important to me? I love the era of the world chorus, like we're the era of the world and we get what we deserve, that kind of thing. Really, era of the world or salvation to return. Like, I what does it mean to me? I think I was just looking at the world in quite a nihilistic state or pessimistic state, and just feeling like the problem with the world is probably ourselves. Like, I think it says as much of a statement as any other one of the lyrics in the album. And I think it's quite a bold one. I usually write quite cryptically, so I wanted to just make sure people knew what I was getting at.
I respect that. All right. So what song on the album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Longest to write, I'd say it was probably Era of the World. I think Era of the World chorus was actually the last thing we finished, which is kind of crazy. But I think we wrote like 10 choruses for it. I think we just went over and over again, and it was like, this is the first song on the album, we know it is, like the first full song, and it's got to make that statement kind of thing. That's why I wanted it to be so much more point blank about what we were saying. Yeah, we just went through these ideas over and over again, and just we found one we thought was the right one, and then we ended up I think I wanted to call it Era of the World anyway. It was in the chorus, it was just not in the right place, and we just shifted it, and then we wrote the rest in like 20 minutes. It was a crazy session, but I'm glad that happened. Favorite song, I'd say New Age Vibrance, but Truest Blue or New Age Vibrance. Truest Blue is because I've always wanted to write a song like that had that kind of like Depeche Mode euphoric chorus, and it came together really easily because it was the first song we wrote on side 2. So it had these all new electrical elements, and it was all exciting like that. And I forgot. I lost my train of thought. This is the COVID talking. This is what it is.
You're all good.
You're
all good.
I hate drawing blanks.
The favorite song.
Yeah, the favorite song. I'm just trying. Like, I just forgot what I was saying.
It's all good.
It's all good. We got
New
what
Age
you're
Vibrance.
saying.
New Age Vibrance is. I've always wanted to write a song like New Age Vibrance that was a bit more textural and less, pop structured, more experimental. And I love that it. To me, it wraps up the whole record quite well. Like it ties in lyrics from the record. It ties in the idea that this guy's going to return back to Earth with new information to change the world for the better, and it just closes this idea of changing the world. And I love that. I love how I like writing it. I loved writing it. I loved like almost being self-referential with all the lyrics that I'd already written, introducing this motif that's like in 3 other places in the album to just kind of close it all off. And it was just fun to write. It felt like we were writing like a credits for the album, and I just had a lot of fun writing that. So and I like the minimalism at the start of it. It's just kind of strange, and it's so cold. There's like no atmosphere at all, and we've not done that before, so it was lovely to do that.
Love that.
Perfect. All right. So how did the track list for this album come about? Did you guys write the opener to be the opener, closer to be the closer? Just kind of shuffled around, listened through a couple times. What was that process like?
Sorry, what was the process for what? I didn't hear the start of it. Sorry.
The track listing.
The track listing. It was written with the concept's trajectory in mind. So I think we knew that it was going to start with this big grand open, but feels a bit like the fall of a world, as it were, and then it would decline into this like much more personal and fragile state of mind. That's side one, and then side two was like open into this new world with complete sonic shift and kind of like find euphoria. That was the trajectory, and then we just write music around these like bases. So we had it in like 4 scenes, 4 big chunks, and we'd write in these pockets, and then as soon as we started getting a bit of a scope for where the tracks were sitting, we'd be like, right, so what's needed in this like accent and stuff, and that's where we came up with like lull, like the complete all voice songs, like let's completely make it completely vulnerable, let's make it completely like personal, like let's make it completely soft and take everything away and then just shove everything back in your face for human error to make it feel like there's a definite change of world. So it was just kind of playing with a timeline and then just finding the sounds that worked with those emotional things rather than like having songs and then like shove them about. I think it was like a perfect way for us to write. Like it's fun. It's so fun. It's tormenting as well, because you have these songs that don't fit in these places that you want them to, and you're like, well, then it can't be used because it's not the idea. So then you've got this bank of songs that are like sick, but they don't actually fit in what you're trying to say, which are maybe used in the future, maybe just sat there forever. So sacrifice to the idea. That's what I'm all about. It's always got to be motivated by something. So.
All right.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense. I don't know if
it makes sense.
That does.
It makes sense. You did great.
Right.
So where's your headspace at while you guys are writing this album?
Headspace. I went through a few massive changes when I was going through the writing of the lyrics, and I'd moved back home and stuff. So it was a big shift for me. But at the same time, like I'd written a concept a year before about social isolation and like falling victim to like broken heart syndrome and the way of the world and all these things, and then finding yourself in this new world. And that was where we based the album from. And it was just kind of me trying to find something that would talk about the state of the world. And then we find ourselves in lockdown, in COVID restrictions, isolated from everybody, and all these other things that kind of matched like similar progressions. And it was definitely a great way to fall into, essentially accidentally fall into what I was. Where was I at? About the pandemic. Yeah, yes, I've written this concept. It was weird. I've written this concept in like March 2019. And that was what was crazy. It was like a full year. And I'm not saying I'm some crazy, like telepathic kind of guy, but I just like this idea of everyone being like in their own isolation. And it was more the idea of feeling alone in a populated world and being more connected than ever, but feeling further apart. That's another lyric I like in the album, actually. Okay. Yeah. But so that was all happening. And then we find ourselves in it. And it was just I was just dealing with what everyone else was dealing with, I guess. And it was kind of interesting that everyone was dealing with it. So you kind of saw not just your own perspective, you saw everyone's perspective because everyone was talking about it online. So it was kind of like a nice resource of information to kind of get an overall feeling of what people felt like. And it was cool because everyone was like at a point of reflection as soon as they're locked up. It's like, right, well, how do I live my life? So it's perfect. It's kind of nice. Yeah. I mean,
in like a sick way,
it was a nice thing to kind of see everyone kind of reflect on their lives though, and kind of see if they could make a change. That was kind of like a really good bit about the whole lockdown experience, I think.
Sure. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should they play it in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Should they blast at a party? What do you personally recommend?
So Cal especially, but we're both big believers in like full album listening, as it were. So I'd say you need to sit with it like you sit with a film or something. Like I'd say you'd sit there with the lyric sheet out as you would if you had a vinyl, like in the 90s or something. Put it on, read the lyrics, and kind of like lose yourself in it that way, rather than trying to put it on a playlist and listen to it whilst you're doing something. Like music shouldn't always be background. It should be, taken for like your full attention for it. So I'd say probably in the dark with your headphones, or like with a lyric sheet in front of you.
All right. So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
I'm an overthinker, so I don't think it's going to be very quick. 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm the worst of these things.
It's okay.
I'd say euphoric.
It's a good one.
Euphoric, evocative.
Okay. All right.
And I'll say new wave. Just see what people think about that. Yeah.
There you go. See, that was quick enough. That was good.
It only took me 2 minutes, but
Hey, it's better. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I just don't want to be like loud, fast, heavy, or something that's just like it doesn't do anything for me.
I'm afraid that might be a little bit of a lie too.
It's not loud, it's not fast, it's not heavy. Sorry guys, anyone listening wants that.
So is there a certain feeling or emotion you want this album to invoke in your listeners?
I always wanted people to reflect their own way of living in the music, or if reading the lyrics or something, and kind of just to be like, my question for like the second half was essentially like, what do you live for, or who are you, kind of thing. So I guess if someone gets an element of self-reflection in it, I think I've done my job, I guess. Emotion wise, like, I guess it's just going to make you feel however you feel. Like, I feel like everyone's different, but there's definitely an element of like catharsis for me. An element of like, I don't know the word for it. Like, it's like an overwhelming feeling. That's how I see it. That's but I don't know the word for that feeling. I suppose it's euphoria, but I don't know if people would get that from it. Well, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll wait and see. January 21st.
To find out.
But yeah, I just think this, like, if people can get an element of self-reflection in there, or just like consider, I don't know, a view of something in the world, or not be, if people can just like take a minute to not be on Twitter for like 50 minutes, I would be so happy.
I think a lot of people would be happy, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And then there'd be less tweets for 50 minutes. If everyone just shuts up for 50 minutes, well, it's probably a better place. So, yeah.
So what band or artist influence you think you can hear the most on this album, if any? What bands? Yep.
I feel like there's a definite like emo-ish twist at the start.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely maybe like a 30 Seconds to Mars feel, but like old 30 Seconds to Mars.
Like AFI, kind of? That's how I was describing it to Glory.
I mean, AFI is one of my favorite bands, one of my first favorite bands as well. So I'm stoked on that. Okay. And then side B, I'd say I think a lot of people are going to lean towards 9 Inch Nails because of the electronics and like the kind of a bit more primitive feeling of the music. But there's tons of influence in there for sure. But I'd say probably those two, like 30 Seconds to Mars, 9 Inch Nails, or something.
All right.
Perfect. So what is your favorite memory that you made while creating this record?
I laugh because of that. The studio session just drove us a bit insane. So I think honestly, I know it sounds kind of negative, but I it's not that I don't enjoy it. I always enjoy the result of it, and I'm always like very much like, this is finished and I'm happy now. But making things for me it's not torment. I wouldn't say it's torment, but it's definitely like a challenge, because I'm very passionate about making it right and making it perfect and stuff. So it's definitely like a struggle. So I guess I don't want to say the whole thing because that's just such a crap response, but it's kind of like overcoming things and finding our own self-revolution in it. I think is probably the best memory, is like making this thing happen and finally getting to the point where it's actually becoming the thing you want it to be, rather than feeling like you've just settled because that's the way you thought it was meant to go or something. So I guess, self-revolution, which isn't really a staple of time, but it's definitely a thing for this record. So,
That's good. That's a good answer.
So picture this: you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Snack of choice. That's a tough one. Snack of choice. I don't know if I'm even sweet or savory. I don't know.
You could get two if it's that hard. Sweet and savory.
Am I like the worst for this question that you guys have ever asked? I feel like this is probably the longest someone's waited for. I don't know. I even eat at gas station. I just buy water.
That's fine.
Okay, so when we're talking water, are we doing like Fiji? Or are we doing like Fiji? I can't think of any other ones. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll just go for ice cream. Because I used to get ice creams on tour. That was a long time ago though, but just go for that. That's actually a response. So
there you go. Yeah. Okay. Ice cream. Do you have like a specific flavor? Like what are we talking about here?
Just like classic flavors, man. Like just classic flavors.
Okay.
But I'm definitely like into ice cream. It's good. It's a good vibe.
Okay.
I feel like you guys from the States, right? Yeah. I feel like you've probably got better ice cream than we do. So
never had UK ice cream, so
just probably I'd say probably don't if you guys feel like everything's better in the States. So
it is probably, but it's probably not good for you either.
No, I've only come ever twice, and it was a sugary experience. It was good.
Yeah.
Sugar and grease. That's
and McDonald's tastes so much different.
It's not good, is it? Yeah. Is it better over there?
I don't know. It tastes cleaner over here.
That's that would make sense. Yeah.
It tastes cleaner.
It's not good. It's not good at all. So, on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be?
I'm gonna have to think of a split concept dish that's like got two layers or something to make it album fitting. What's that? I was like, what's that thing that's like? It's like a meringue. Put it in the oven, and but there's like ice cream in it. What is that called?
Oh, I know what that is. It's like, oh my god, give me a second.
Glory's the in-house chef here at the podcast.
Oh, cool. I forgot
Baked Alaska.
We're a baked Alaska, I'd say. Yeah, that's good. Or something blue, like I don't even know what would be blue. Like a blueberry pie.
All right.
Let's go with that.
Okay. Why blue?
Because our aesthetic's entirely blue.
Okay. All right.
Trying to be done with it.
Okay.
Fair enough. So where do you see the band in the next 5 years?
I think I just hope that we kind of carry on doing what we're doing in terms of making art the way we want to make it, and kind of give people as much escapism as we possibly can, and make things that aren't exactly conventional, as it were. So, and kind of just make it like a surreal experience all around, and just keep doing that. Like in terms of size and stuff, I don't know. As long as people are connecting with it, I suppose it's not a problem. I suppose that's it. It's more about how what we make in for modern era, I guess. As long as it's like, saying the right things and giving people something, then I'm content.
All right.
It's wholesome. All right. So for the last couple questions, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
Sure, let's do it.
So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
With a drink.
Mm-hmm.
What would my last meal be?
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably just go for like some sushi or something. Go for some sushi. Let's go for sushi and like a classic cola, and just be like, "Cheers, guys! Thanks for everything."
Perfect.
I'm on death row. I don't think I deserve it anyway. So.
So if you could live in one fiction world for a week, where would you live?
Fictional world.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There's so many to choose from. I actually have no idea.
Yeah.
The dream world of Inception.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
I went to cartoons first, but I thought that's not actually where I'd want to be. It's just instantly, I think the dream world of Inception, to be able to build worlds would be pretty crazy.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. All right. So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question.
Sure.
What is your favorite color?
I like a teal.
Ooh.
Got to keep it on brand.
Yeah.
Got to keep it on brand.
Yeah.
Sure.
So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Socials, I suppose, at Modern Era UK. Victor Modern Age out 21st of January. That's about it.
All right. Well,
Perfect.
thank you for now. That's been Zach from Modern Era, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.